So then we moved back to Japan and I lived in Tokyo for the first time. Went to international school there. Great experience. Lot of people that I continue to stay in touch with to this day. And then we went back to Columbia, South Carolina, and that was at the very end of seventh grade. And so I spent about, I would say, maybe about three-fourths of a year in South Carolina. And my dad at that time was working with USC. Um, and I remember telling my best friend, Vicky was her name, and I told her that we were getting ready to go back to Japan. I think this was like the third semester in eighth grade is when I started, my new school in Japan. So, right before then. And I'm telling her, so, I'm going to be moving back, but it was really great. I really, you're such a great friend. I'm going to miss you. And then Vicky's like, don't worry. I'm going to be getting my driver's permit. So I'll come and visit. I'll have to drive and visit you. And I just remember telling her, yeah, well, I don't know if you're going to be able to drive there, but it's kind of interesting because I have, like a couple of these moments that I just remember so vividly where I'm in this crazy zone moment is what I call them, where where I just, they just have no idea. They don't know Japan. They think Japan and China are the same place. They think, oh, do you guys always ride around on bicycles? No, we do. Of course, Japan does have lots of bicycles. However, they build cars, because I mean, which of course we all know now, but back in the day, I can't tell you how many times people would ask me, do they have cars in Japan? Like, how do you guys get around, and so, it's just, I don't know. It's kind of that very, interesting, I guess, position to be in where, and I know that I'm coming from a different place and I know that I've got a unique or different background, and sometimes, yeah, people just don't know. So you have to kind of explain it to them. I do think one thing that it has taught me is to not take myself too seriously a lot of the times but also to be tolerant, and I think this is another topic that I will be touching on at some points in my podcast is tolerance, whether it be of, culturally or religious or, I mean, it's just so important. And I think that there's less of that nowadays. And so, I think just getting to hear other people's stories and listening to other people's stories. And, this is something that I really want to touch on in my podcast. And hopefully you guys are, excited about that. And anyway, back to my background. And to me, it's all about me, people. Not really, but so we moved back to Japan and I lived there pretty much. Well, no, I went to after high school. I did go for a year of college in Dayton, Tennessee, and that was a huge culture shock for me. I came, from Tokyo and we were living in the area, Shibuya, Harajuku area. So very, kind of hip area. And we went from there to a very small town, yeah, city, not city, called, Dayton. And I just could not relate to so many of the conversations that were going on around me. But one really interesting aspect of that was, for whatever reason, for the first time at that college, they had an exchange student from Japan, and her name was Shoko. And we gravitated towards her, to each other. Like she was a bit younger. No, she was older than me. She was 2 years older than me. I think she was a junior. So, but we would always get together just so we could speak Japanese to each other. And, at that time, my Japanese was not very good. at all. Like really didn't use it that much, but we did get together to talk about Japan, talk about Japanese stuff. And that was when, for the first time, I thought, okay, I'm not this super American girl. Yep, I found that out. That's not who I am. So who am I? Like, where do I fit in this crazy hodgepodge scenario that, I've grown up in? So after that 1 year of college, I decided to go back to Japan and spend time trying to figure out where the two cultures, where the two countries, how, like, what were they to me and what did they represent to me? And how was I going to incorporate them into who I am? And this is something that really does take a lot of time, I think, to, find peace on this matter. I mean, it took me a couple stages of or, no, oh, Americans, and, so it was a journey for sure. But I think that because I went through that, that it's really taken me to where I am now. And now I would not change it for the world. Like, I'm so, so proud to have had and blessed to have had a very unique and different background. Um, so anyway, when I moved back to Japan to kind of reflect and figure out who I wanted to be, who am I? Where am I? What am I? Is when I started working in radio. And that, of course, led to me doing a lot of voice work and working with TV, and then also working with, I did a lot of work as well interpreting, and also the lost in translation, which I will definitely do an episode about just in and of itself. That's a great experience that I want to talk about. With Sofia Coppola, her film, and Bill Murray and Scarlett Johansson. But also, yeah, it's just, that whole time I was very involved in the media and entertainment world, and I was very hip and up to what was going on musically or even with entertainment, with news, blah, blah, blah. But I didn't know anything about America really, and I mean, I knew what I saw on the news and saw in the movies and TV and heard on the radio, but I still had never lived in America. So at the age of 39, I decided to move to America. And as I mentioned a little bit earlier, completely reinvent myself and not even knowing what I was getting myself into. And that has, it's taken, I thought maybe a year, 2 years, I'm like, oh yeah, I got this, no problem, I'm good. But no, I'm still sometimes, I think, adjusting. I remember one of the crazy experiences that I had, because I had a Japanese roommate when I first lived when I lived in LA, and someone had sent me something, by UPS, I think. They had sent me some flowers. And so the UPS guy came, and he said, here's your flowers. I'm like, oh, that's so nice. Thank you. I'm like, hold on. And I go to my friend, my roommate. I'm like, do I have to tip him? And then she looked at me like I was crazy. She's like, what? Lisle, you're so Japanese. You don't know anything. I'm like, no, I don't. Because, in Japan, you don't tip, right? You don't know. So I had no idea. When do I tip? I had no clue. Oh my gosh, so many times. And it was moments like that, once more, where I call them my zone moments, where I'm just reacting to the situation naturally, but people are looking at me like, who are you? What are you doing? So I have many of those moments, and those will also be coming up in my podcast as well. So that's about it right now. But I hope that you enjoyed my first episode. One thing about me as well, and with this podcast, I'm not going to edit it. I'm not going to polish it. I'm going to try to, keep it a little authentic. So I hope that you enjoyed this, and I hope that you join me again next week for the Adventures of a Blonde Geisha. Now, as for where you can find out about my podcast, I do have a website, www.adventuresofablondegeisha.com. So once more, this is Lisle signing off. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'm so excited that we get to finally go on this journey together. So until we meet again, live for lots of love, lots of peace. See you next time. Bye.